Hey guys, before we start the show, I want to take a minute to tell you about the magic that goes on behind the scenes. This show that you're about to listen to, just like every other episode of Project Mindfully Outdoors, the podcast, is supported by our friends at Anchor.fm. If you haven't exactly heard about it, let me share a few ideas and a few points with you. Because if you're thinking about starting a podcast of your very own, these are the guys that you need to be working with. They put all the best tools that you're going to need right at your fingertips. Or, in my case, right on my phone. Which is why I really love Anchor. Because I can build my shows in the field or wherever I'm at. There's so many cool tools at your disposal. It would take me hours to list them all and explain them to you. So I'm going to cut to a couple of key important points. Number one, they make things super easy. And number two, they distribute your podcast for you to all the major sites that you listen to your favorite podcast at. In fact, even probably where you're listening to this one on. Oh yeah, don't forget, with their sponsorship program, you start making money from day one. So it's always cool that you can put a couple extra bucks in your hand. And if you're thinking about it and you're on the fence, don't take my word for it. Just swing over to Anchor.fm. Check out what they got to offer and get started today. Because I know you've got either a computer or a phone, and I know you got a voice. I want to hear what you got to say. And you know what? Not just me, but the rest of the world does too. So, like I said, swing over to Anchor.fm, check them out, and get heard today. Now, on with the show. This is a Project Mindfully Outdoors presentation. Pull yourself up a chair and get your favorite roasting stick ready, because this is the campfire sessions of Project Mindfully Outdoors. I'm your host, Mike Martin, and I welcome you to sit back and enjoy stories that are both new and old. At times we'll be joined by a wild cast of characters, and sometimes I'll even fly solo. No matter what the deal, I promise it's going to be a blast and full of insight. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Project Mindfully Outdoors, the campfire sessions. Of course, I'm your host and the voice behind the story, Mike Martin. For episode 33 of this little thing that I like to call a journey, I am joined by Dr. Dawn Merger. She's a teacher for children with special needs, but she's also an accomplished children's book author. She's renowned for her Queen Verlin series, which you can pick up and enjoy and share with your young ones over on Amazon. Just check the show notes. I'll have all the information there for you. But before we get into the conversation with Dawn, I want to set a stage. For myself, I'll make no secret that this is all new to me. And, I say that because it's to highlight the fact that it's okay to humble yourself and try something new. It's okay to admit that you don't know everything. And really, it's okay to stumble along and figure things out on the fly. Which, that brings me to hosting this episode of the Campfire Sessions. Because, I found myself in a different state of mind in the course of this conversation. I'm also finding that these conversations, they work best and they have the best flow when they're completely natural and organic. Sometimes you have a plan. I know I'm someone that overthinks and tries to plan everything out. Because when I first approached this episode after Dawn reached out to appear, my goal was to explore the practice of gratitude with a childlike mind. However, that's where we started. And then we quickly bounced. Well, you know what? It's fitting, so to quote Dr. Seuss, as best as I can loosely remember, we bounced from here to there. We bounced everywhere. And then, unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties in putting our conversation together as well. We did our best, and we managed to work through them. And I think we succeeded on really holding the vibe and the feel of our discussion through all of that. And I just hope that I managed to do it justice and bring that feel home to you in the course of putting this episode together. All that aside, I really hope you enjoy this conversation. I know that I definitely did. And like I said, it kind of put me into a different state of mind for a little bit. I found myself not only enjoying the conversation, but sitting there with this childlike excitement and sense of wonder. And I hope that's what this conversation does to you. I hope this conversation not only brings that childlike state of mind back for you, but also lifts your day. Because Dawn definitely has a way of making you feel a little happy and a little excited and kind of perks you up a little bit just by talking to her. So I think it was a fun conversation, and I also think it was a great one. And for whatever the reason, whatever the cards have in the store and whatnot, for me personally, it was the right conversation at the right time. So I want to thank Dawn for sitting down and agreeing to appear on the campfire session with me. Now we're going to hit a word from our sponsor over at Cope Notes, and then I give you my conversation with Dr. Dawn Merger. So I'll see you on the flip side, and I hope you enjoy. Our mental health is paramount. It's something that you really just can't slack on. And while I understand that sitting down in a counselor's office or a Zoom call isn't always possible or practical, and sometimes those struggles just kind of become something that all you really need is a few simple words that'll help kick you right back onto track, which is why I want to introduce our sponsor today. That's CopeNotes.com. What's really cool about Cope Notes is there's no apps that you gotta download. They simply send you randomly timed text messages every day, which are intended to not only motivate and inspire you, but they're also meant to keep you on track. I use their service myself, and I can attest to the benefit of their program. So, why don't you just swing over to CopeNotes.com, check them out, and when you sign up, use the promo code Project Outdoors, and you'll save 10% on any new subscriptions. That's CopeNotes.com, and the promo code one more time is Project Outdoors. You'll save 10% on any new subscription. Now back to the show. Why, hello.
Hello. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the campfire.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, I think a good place to start would be to let you introduce yourself a little bit.
All right. My name is Dr. Dawn Menge. I have a PhD in curriculum instruction, and I've been teaching students with severe cognitive delays for over 20 years. And I write an educational adventure series based on my real adventures. And it's won over 44 awards. I just got back from the film festival in Vegas, the Action on Film Festival. And my series won the Special Recognition Champion Award from Conquering Disabilities Film Festival because I have some disabilities in my books. And I have another book that's not part of the series called Dragon's Breath, and it won Best Book from the Miracle Makers Film Festival.
Well, congratulations on all of that.
Thank you.
So, I noticed just at a quick glance because I feel these conversations work best when they're organic and just kind of sitting over a fire. Um, a lot of that stuff kind of focuses a lot on gratitude. So I thought that would be a good subject for us, gratitude and using that to fuel self growth.
Yes, I think that's a very positive thing to talk about.
It's something that I discovered, I don't know, along my journey, probably about a good year and a half now. It was the process, and it's not always something that's easy to stick to, especially when times are tough.
Yes.
You you got any suggestions on how to really build that into a practice that you stick to?
Well, I've had some hard things happen when I was getting divorced. It was kind of rough, and there was domestic violence and stuff. And that's actually, I'd been married a very long time, almost 30 years, and so I was starting over. But I had been teaching for like 10 years, so that was pretty established. But what do I do now? My children were raised, and my marriage was non-existent now. So what do I do with myself? So I started writing my children's books, and they're based on my traveling. I love to travel. So I just really focused on myself and my family, and we do a lot of camping. So there really are campfires in my stories. In fact,
I love that.
at, we we always go to Halama Beach. It's in Central California, and we go camping. And there have been up to 20 some people there. We have our family, my children, my brother's children come, my grandchildren. I have 6 grandchildren now, and then various friends, also come. And I just published that book just a few months ago, and it's called Queen Vernita Sleeps by the Sandy Fireside. And it's pre-K to first grade, and it's based on flying kites and body surfing, and there's raccoons. There's always raccoons that come into our campsite, and get into the things that we leave out on accident. And there's an ostrich farm up there in Solvang. And so we went up there, and so it's in my book. And there's sand castles and s'mores making. And my books really focus on friends and family and adventure. And I have some disabilities in there. And everyone in the book is a real person. So it helps people focus back on what they can do with their families or their friends, having adventures and being grateful for what you have in your life, and when things were really hard for me, I, you know how they say stop and smell the roses,
Yeah,
but that really is true. You really do need to focus on what's going on in your life. And I had these beautiful morning glories in my house. And every morning before I went to work, I would go outside and take pictures of them. And I would, post them on my social media and wish everybody a beautiful morning. But it really helped me start my day.
I like that.
And it seems, everybody says you got to stop and smell the roses. And it's hard to do when your life is
Absolutely.
is, really, really difficult, but it really does help. And I love the ocean. And so we would go to the ocean and I love to listen to the ocean. It's calming and it's soothing. And
Yeah,
that's,
yeah,
and that's another thing that I did. And so you really do have to stop, you know, running the race
right.
and just look at what's, when I would go to work, the sun would be coming up and there would be beautiful sunrises on my way to work. And I would stop and take pictures of that. And that really did help me to defocus on the negative things that were happening that I didn't have control over. You
So
know,
for you, it was a part of the process was actually stopping to take pictures of it.
yeah, I would stop, I would take pictures, and it would just really help.
That makes sense. I mean, it becomes something that you physically make yourself stop and do. So I can see where that repetition builds the habit, and it builds the foundation.
Yes, because if you stop to take the picture to focus on like the flower, then you really are concentrating on the flower. You're not just like walking by, oh, that's really pretty. You know, you really have to stop and look at it. And also with my books, my illustrator takes pictures that I actually take on my trips and incorporates them into the illustration.
Nice.
Yeah, so taking the pictures is actually part of my creation of the books themselves. Like during the pandemic, we did a lot of camping as a family. And my kids and grandkids, we went to Zion, we went to the Grand Canyon, we went to the Sequoias, and we went to the beach a lot. And we went down to Pacific Beach, which is in San Diego. And at that time, I had a friend who was staying with me. She was our occupational therapist, but she was from Maine. And we were
Okay.
trying to see when the ocean turned blue, and we missed it every time. We tried 3 times, missed it every time. But we were we were walking down the beach, and you couldn't even stop on the beach. That's at the time where you had to be exercising or you couldn't stop. And so I had my grandson. So he was swimming in the ocean beside us as we were walking down the beach, and we were walking, and a huge jellyfish came up on the shore, and she was dancing over the top of it, trying not to step on it. And so I, of course, was taking pictures of her and laughing at her. she's a
Right.
good she's a good sport. But that actually became an illustration in my new book. So you
That's
have,
really cool, though.
yeah, you have my grandson in the background. He's dancing in the waves, and she's dancing over the jellyfish, and it really happened. So, just laughing at the little things in life. And, that was a really hard time for everybody,
Yeah.
when we were all in quarantine. And it was difficult to, like, there was a family that came to the beach, and she had just little babies, and they were sitting on the sand trying to make sandcastles. And the lifeguard told them they couldn't do that. And that was really hard to really understand. They were just playing in the sand. But so it was just a difficult time, and just being able to find something to laugh about.
Yeah. That was something that a lot of us struggled with.
Yes, it was very difficult.
The more that you're talking about, the content of your books, the more I'm starting to see the real personal touch and the personal like reminders and whatnot that you'll have. And I really like that fact. And I don't know, ever since I started doing these interviews, I've been trying to find a way that kind of ties my guest to and my story kind of together. So there is, that mutual whatever for a conversation. And I think that a lot of what you're describing with your books is kind of a lot of the approach that I've taken with my project, and that you put that personal twist in there. And it's not only something for you to share, but it's also something that you can look back on and see, I guess, as a way to gauge kind of just how far you've come since that specific moment in time.
Yeah, when I go back and look at, my books are created from our actual life. I have one I just read. I read it Monday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning for a bedtime stories podcast in the UK. And it's based on, there's a train that goes from Williams, Arizona to the Grand Canyon. So there were 19 of us, and we rode the train, and then we went back, put our pajamas on, and rode the Polar Express. And the cover of the book is actually my grandson falling asleep in Santa's lap. And, that was just a great family adventure that we all did. And now it's a legacy for my family, for my grandchildren. And it's a way for other families to see, well, oh, what kinds of things can we do?
Right.
Because I've talked to people and they said, well, I didn't even know that they did that,
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. And, just all sorts of things. I had someone, I think they were in Philadelphia, and no, it was St. Louis. They were checking my books out at the library. And so this mom and the little boy had been reading my books. I didn't even know they were in the library there, but she actually got another job so that she could take her child exploring.
Yeah.
And, it's like, so now they're going to have all of these memories that they're building together. And, that's part of the purpose of writing the books and sharing, my family's legacy and what we're doing.
Which is really cool.
And I like to travel. So.
Yeah, traveling's always fun. I mean,
Yes.
I spent a lot of time in the outdoors hunting and fishing. That's kind of the same concept, and the camping and everything. So, getting back to your books though, what was like originally when you first got going with them, what was kind of your thought process?
Well, the first one was just a basic days of the weeks, months of the years. And I actually wrote it when I was taking a credentialing class. It was an assignment in the math class. And I published it, and I really wasn't doing anything more with it. It's like, okay, publish the book. And then I started getting interviews, started winning awards, and people are asking me, well, what's your next book? So I love to travel. So I started writing about traveling. And it's actually named after my grandmother. Her name was Vernita Watson. And so it's called Queen Vernita's Visitors. So it's named after her, but they're my adventures. And so we have one in Alaska. And we went kayaking to the glaciers, and we saw eagles, and there's bears. And then I have one in New Orleans, and we went into the bayou, and I got to hold a baby alligator twice. And so that's in there. We went to the plantations. There's a lot of history and geography in it. So it's just kind of expanded from the basic book to wherever it is that I'm, going on an adventure to. And so I wrote one with my brother, who is an astronomer at JPL up here, and it's on astronomy. And so we do a lot of camping and traveling together as a family. And that's what the books are about, just sharing adventures.
I like that concept. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know, a little bit of a theory that I haven't done a whole lot of dabbling with, but has always been intrigued by, is bringing back that childlike approach to life. And being 41 years old now and having gone through a massive upheaval and trying to relearn life, almost as if you're a child again, and you're kind of viewing everything as new and exciting.
Yes. Well, sometimes, I don't know, I guess that we get jaded, and we don't appreciate the things that we're doing. And so, being able to, and sometimes it takes something catastrophic to see that, but being able to just kind of step back and, say, I have a wonderful life, even though it's not going exactly the way I would like it to go, it is wonderful. There's so many things to appreciate. The snow falling, sometimes we forget about all that.
Yeah, I know I've been very guilty of that in my past.
Yes, that's for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I over the course of the last 2 years, I've definitely learned to slow down and I guess really appreciate seeing things through more and more through my children's eyes and trying to really, incorporate that into my own thought process and the way that I see everything.
Well, we do. We forget how how amazing the little things are because we're so busy chasing, I don't know, the bigger things, and we rush the kids too because it's not new for us.
Right.
So when it's new for them, it's like, oh well, that's just the ocean, or that's no, it's like that's the ocean, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we forget that wonderment.
Yeah, and it's just trying to, I guess, incorporate, bring back that spark and that excitement in life. And I know personally at times I struggle to find ways in order to do that. You got any tips or ideas for that?
Well, I think that I always tell people that the best advice is that you have to know yourself. It's like what works for me isn't going to work for someone else. So you find out what your passions are. Like, what do you love doing? And it could be hunting, camping, fishing, gardening, whatever your passions are, that's what you should be concentrating on. And sometimes we try to find what other people are doing. Oh, well, you really like that, so I should like that. But no, you're going to like what you love. And so, but sometimes you don't know. You're so busy being, mom or dad and employee or business owner or whatever it is you're doing that you forget who you are, and what you really love. So you need to make sure you find time for that, for your passions.
Makes complete sense.
I mean, there's no real quick fix. There really isn't. There takes a lot of self reflection and self exploration, about what it is, and when people are working all the time or hustling, bustling, what is it exactly you're working towards? Do you know what you're working towards? Or did you just get kind of caught up, in that flow, and you've lost what it is you're really looking for, you know?
Right. It's more so that just being lost in the grind and kind of forgetting who you are.
Right. You know,
And then ultimately when you hit that bump in the road, then you kind of end up in a spot where you feel completely lost.
right, right. And that's how people get burnt out or they get
Right.
sick, trying to meet other people's demands all the time. I mean, you do have to do that. If you have a job or a business, you do have to meet those demands, but don't forget that you have your own needs.
Right. So it boils down to ensuring that you have a regular self-care routine.
Yes, yes. I think that's something that when we all ended up getting on lockdown, that people had more of a chance to see, they, the parents spent more time with their children, trying to teach them, trying to work, and you really had to concentrate on your own little unit more,
Yeah.
and for some people that was a great thing, and for some people it wasn't so good, but I think it gave everybody a chance to refocus. I know when it started, I'm teaching full time, and I was doing a lot of work for Sacramento, so I was flying up there and I was trying to do book signings, so I was driving to like Arizona because I work with a magazine there, and I was exhausted. I was thinking, what, I can't keep this up until the end of the school year, and then next thing I know, we're not doing any of that. but I think that was, that was good for me because I was at the edge of, I can't keep this up. But what I did was I thought, okay, so what I'm going to do is catch up on my books. So I published 5 books during this time and did a lot more interviewing and concentrating on that. And so I found another avenue where I could be creative and, stay at home and take care of my students. And so I got to do that. And now that we're back in school, now I'm just finishing up the last book. So I won't be able to do that anymore because now I'm in class.
Right.
So I did take that opportunity to get those adventures out that I've had waiting to write.
Yeah. Yeah. See, for me personally, I was one of the lucky ones that had to work through the entire thing. So
Oh,
I didn't get that break, but then again, I also have a lot of extra free time outside of work that I got to really, throw into my project and writing and ultimately producing this podcast. And it's been probably just as rewarding as it sounds like your adventure has been,
yeah.
because it's given me a time to, you know, not only reflect a lot, but also emphasize the fact that, this whole project is here to help and support people. And now it's hit this phase where it feels like it's kind of gone out of my hand a little bit, because all of a sudden I had this sudden rush for people that are coming on as guests to join me at the campfire like this. And it's kind of a new learning process. It's actually pretty exciting.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I saw yours and I'm like, the campfire, we're actually going to camping to Zion. My fall break is next week and we're going camping to Zion and I will be sitting by a real campfire
Very cool.
with all of my children and all of my grandchildren. So,
Yeah, I got to enjoy taking my youngest son camping a few times this summer, and that was fun.
how old is he?
My youngest son is 6, and
Ah,
then I've got 4 kids all together that range between 6 and 21. So it's busy.
well, you should take them on the Polar Express.
Honestly, I didn't know that was really a thing,
It
but
is, and they have it all over. They have it in
that
a lot of the major cities.
that is amazing. I think we are going to look into that this season.
Yes. I don't know where you're at. Where are you at?
I'm closer to Detroit in Michigan.
Oh, okay. Um, we also went to a Santa's workshop, and I
Yeah, we
don't.
do that.
Okay, yeah. So they should have a Polar Express in all the major cities. So yeah, look it up, and it usually starts around Thanksgiving
Yeah, I will definitely have to look that up.
before they get too old, and then they're like, I don't want to do that.
I still got time with the youngest too, and we're building new traditions, so
Oh
I,
yeah.
that will definitely have to become one of them.
Well, before the older one tells the younger one,
Right.
and spoils it all.
Absolutely. I mean, the kids are a blast, and I think it was really cool that you reached out to come on the show.
Well, I saw the campfire and I'm like, oh, well, perfect. Since we love camping.
Right. I mean, it's really cool that the word campfire, the headline, really got you, because when I put the idea together, that this was the idea for it. So I'm glad it worked.
Sitting around talking by the campfire. I
Yep.
also, I also have 2 books based on Kona, Hawaii,
What are
and
the? Go ahead.
and the first one has seahorses. There's a seahorse farm in Hawaii. I don't think it's not a farm, but where they raise the seahorses, and you can go
Okay.
and learn about them. And then at the end, they take a little baby seahorse and he wraps his tail around your finger, and so it's really neat. So if anybody is going to Hawaii, Kona, they also have one where they raised the octopus, and we did that last time we were there. And you get to feed them, and then it's actually squirted. It squirted my grandson, scared him to death. He didn't like it, but it's wrapping their tentacles around our arms. It was kind of, different because you don't really get a chance to have an octopus do that. But that was
Right.
and one time we won, I actually won a trip from Stater Brothers. So when people say like people don't win contests, that was something I did when my kids were teenagers. I did a lot of contests and I was like winning every day. But we won a trip to Hawaii, to Oahu, and we took everybody. And I wanted to go swimming in a shark cage. So we drove to the North Shore on the other side and we all went in. And so we went out about 10 miles out in the ocean and went inside the shark cage. And I went with the boys and the family first. And the sharks were swimming around. It was really neat. They weren't like great whites or anything, but it was really exciting. And my daughter was on the top and she was feeding the sharks to bring them. And so she saw them like jumping out and grabbing the meat and all that. So she couldn't get in the cage. Like, no, because she saw a different version than what we saw. But yeah, we've had some really exciting adventures together. And, that's what I like to encourage the families when they're reading the books. These are real adventures. If you go in my Facebook, I have an album for each book, and you can see the actual pictures of our adventures. So if a child is reading the books and they're like, we can't do this, we don't know what this is. If you go in there and you show them, there's pictures of my grandchildren and my children and even my mom doing all of this stuff. So there's no like limit to, when we first started traveling, my granddaughter was, I think she was 8 months old, and she was in Honduras with us, swimming with the dolphins, you know,
Nice.
and so there's no, the child's too young or I'm too old or, whatever. No,
Right.
get out there. Life is short and you should take the opportunities to try new things and explore and sit by the campfire and smell like smoke
Absolutely.
and
I
roast
mean,
marshmallows.
my youngest son, his first camping trip, he was 6 months old, so
Yes. Yeah,
there's no excuse.
right. There's no excuse. We're taking, though we are going in a trailer, not a tent, but my youngest granddaughter is almost 3 months old and she's going camping. And then my oldest is a senior in high school. So, you
Yeah.
get out there and you have to teach them to get dirty and, you stick the marshmallow on the stick and you stick it in the fire and then it catches on fire and then you blow it out. That's how you make a s'more.
Exactly.
So, you get
So,
dirty.
so favorite place to camp?
Halama Beach.
Why is that?
Um, because we all love the beach and we get to camp on the beach itself and it's just it's off by itself, and so like there's no houses or anything down there, and everybody's that's there is just camping and fishing and walking on the beach and just having fun, and that's just our favorite family beach to go camping or found.
Well,
Yeah.
you had me at fishing.
Well, it's ocean fishing. It,
Even better. Never done it, so it would be amazing.
yeah.
But you
Well,
just painted the most amazing picture of camping.
yeah, well, if you go on my Facebook, then you can see all the pictures of everything that we did there and where the illustrations came from, body surfing, and oh, and they have the best hamburgers there. They're Halama hamburgers, and they have a little store there, and they make them there, and they are so good.
Perfect. Burgers and fishing.
Yep, yep.
I would have to say mine is probably the family getaway that I've done since we were kids would be out in Irish Hills area where there's a nice big lake. There's a amazing campground, and there's just so many memories growing up and now even with my kids that I mean the fishing isn't always great out there, but there is fishing too. And I'd say honestly it's just that place that centers and soothes my soul because my life is there when I'm not at home.
Yes, yes. And now you're giving that to your children. And I'm not a fisherman because I don't have patience, but it's not always about catching the fish.
No, it's not.
So it's just the whole process of it.
In fact, it's kind of funny because when I first started this project, it was originally a blog, and the very first article that I wrote was comparing the concept of living with social anxiety to being the lure on the end of the fishing rod.
Mm,
Because when you cast and you're presenting your bait, your goal is to basically look like you're having a massive panic attack. You're a skittish fish afraid to be eaten.
yeah,
And to me, with social anxiety and being out in the store, it's no different. It is basically, everything out there is the big bass, the big predator, and I'm trying to duck and dive and, achieve my objectives without being eaten and getting away as quick as I can.
yeah, yeah,
There's so many different metaphors to fishing and hunting that go way beyond actually catching something or whatever. And that was another aspect to this project was pretty much anybody can tell you how to catch a fish or how to harvest a deer, but nobody actually stops to really investigate the thought process or the way that those actions and movements tie into regular life and dealing with some of the mental disorders that are out there.
yes. It also teaches patience,
That it does.
you know, and it's a good time to sit with your family, like a son, a dad and a son, and just sit there and relax. And when you're relaxed, then your children are more apt to open up, to let you know, like if something's going on, that's the time that they're going to start talking to you. When you're interacting with them, when you're sharing an activity with them, walking, hiking, anything where they feel connected to you, they're going to feel more secure, and then they're going to open up to you too.
Yeah, I like that line of thinking a lot because I mean that kind of brings me back to sometimes with my daughter and her just chopping wood and getting ready for the fire or whatever, and just some conversations and whatnot. And they're really moments that you can't replace. And with the hustle bustle of life, it's really easy to overlook and forget about.
Right. Sometimes people find out they really only spend like 15 minutes with their children in a day, because they're at school, they're at work, then they have homework, and they're not really connecting with them enough so that if the child's having problems, they can actually feel comfortable enough. When are they going to stop in the middle of making dinner? Hey, by the way, this is
Right.
happening. You need some quiet, connected time for the child to feel safe enough to start talking about the things that are happening.
See, and I find being a divorced father and only getting, the weekends or whatnot with my children makes that a lot tougher. So you really got to put the extra effort in. And I find that, with the outdoors and those kind of activities, it takes every other aspect of life away and you're kind of there together. So,
Yes.
number one, you're relaxed, they're relaxed, and, a lot more things come out.
Right. Take the video games away, you know,
Right.
we're here to be together. That's one of the big distractions um, in life is the video games and the iPads and the, I don't like them in the classroom. I'm kind of behind the times in that, and because I don't want the kids doing that, and they can do it at home, you know, and
Yeah,
so, when you're out camping and they shouldn't even have that. They should be out
right.
smelling the forest or going for a hike or looking at the pine trees, you know.
And that's kind of where, as the parent, it's your job to foster that childhood excitement and
Right.
kind of encourage them to open up and explore things.
Yeah, my books, I they're going to be part of. It's a movie. He's a cons, oh, he's in, oh, I forgot what he was called. Sorry. He, he preserving the dolphins and things. And so I was having a discussion with him, and my students had gone swimming with the dolphins in SeaWorld. And so, they're not really positive about animals that are, captured and things like this. But I was trying to explain that as a teacher, you run into children who've never seen the ocean, they've never seen snow, they've never been to the mountains, you know, they've seen a picture of a dolphin, but they don't know what a dolphin is. So, how do they know that it's important to take care of all of the beautiful things in the world if they've never seen it except on?
Right. Still with me? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, sorry, my phone went on quiet.
Oh, that's okay.
But so I was trying to explain to him that the children don't know what these things are. So we can't teach them that it's important to preserve them if they don't know what they are. So
Absolutely.
that's why they need to go to like SeaWorld, and they can't really go to the ocean and see a dolphin, you know, but if they see, oh, the dolphin is real, okay, or they get to swim with the dolphin, or so it's a beginning, even though it's not what a lot of people want. We have to have some access to the world for the children that don't have access to it. There are children that have never leave their neighborhoods,
Right.
and they don't know any of this. They don't know how big the world really is, what's out there, the different people. When while we were in the pandemic, somebody got on one of the Facebook groups, and they wanted authors to do readings for some. Okay, next time I'm not going to do it on my phone. People texting and calling, and
It's GarageBand technology, I'm telling you.
okay. Don't know what we were talking about.
I lost track too.
Oh, I think we're talking about exposing our children to like real life, and
That's
you know,
it.
can't we can't sit in classrooms and teach them about conservation, saving the rainforest or the forest itself or the animals if they've never seen them. If they've never been to a forest, it has no meaning to them. If they live in a big city and they've never gone past their neighborhood, their block, it it has no meaning at all to them to say, "Oh, well, 300 miles away there's a forest and we need to save the forest."
Right.
So you really need to get the children out, and get get dirty and go camping and be cold and be hot and you know,
Yeah.
find
I,
out what
I,
a bicycle is.
right. I believe that's the kind of stuff that really shapes somebody
Yes,
because, I mean, you can sit and you can read something in a book all day long and it applies to, not only adventures in the outdoors or your day-to-day home life, but also when they grow up to go to work. You can sit in a classroom and read stuff day in and day out, but until you actually get out there and apply things, you really have no concept of how it's going to work.
right. Even for our students, and it's wonderful practice. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but we teach a lot of community skills. Riding the bus, shopping, all of this working. And so the teachers who don't have access to the actual community itself, they create stores in the classrooms, and it's great practice. Okay, the child has earned some money. They're going to go to this, to the store that's at the desk over here and practice. But if you never take the child to the store and they're doing it for real, they're not generalizing what they're doing.
Right.
You know, if you're teaching them, oh, to ride, we have to actually get on the city bus and ride the city bus somewhere and look at the schedule. Otherwise, you could show them, and that doesn't mean when it's time for them to go do it that they're going to understand how to do it. But everyone is like that.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
They have to do it themselves and get in there and make mistakes, before they understand how to do something. But I think
Right.
but I think we're losing that with the all of the IT stuff and just I mean, I'm not against video games themselves, but there's a time and a place.
Right.
And I think it's getting into the classrooms too much. That's how I feel.
It really is. I mean, I see the stuff that my children bring home for from school, and that's great because you're gonna have to learn how to operate that equipment anyway. But are you gonna be able to problem solve and reason your way through things in real life just based on what's going on in that video game?
Right. Right. It's a great way to practice, but it's like practicing to fly an airplane, and then never actually flying the airplane and just going, well, I know how to do this because I got 100% on the simulated, test.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, we'll go fly. And nobody's actually taught them how to fly the airplane. You,
Right.
you need that process. And we're losing a lot of that. That's how I feel, and I don't know. I hope that people start stepping back a little more and, not using the electronics, for babysitting or for just here, sit in front of here and teach, and
Right.
let the computer teach you or the program teach you or, I mean, we do a lot of things, we do, but, like even books, reading a book on a tablet is not the same as holding that book in your hand.
That's very true. I mean,
You know?
it seems like, especially since the pandemic and everything, everybody's more focused on the algorithms, but what about putting your hands on things?
Right.
It's two different things. It's two different worlds altogether.
Right. But people are focusing on the wrong things,
Right.
but part of the pandemic, um, well, like I think I started saying that and we got cut off, but I did a book reading for a class in Paraguay, and it was a second grade class, and they couldn't really speak English, but they could understand me. And one little boy, he was so cute. He said he was going to come to California so I could read him a story. And I said, well, if you can come here, I will read you a story. And I would not have had been able to do that if it weren't for the internet and the pandemic and all of other things, which was wonderful. I gave them an experience and I had an experience. But then I mailed them a set of my books
Yeah,
so they could have the books in person. And they have to have that.
absolutely.
Not the same. I read stories to my students on, we have a big smart board, and I read them, but it's not the same as having a book in their hand, and
Right.
I hope we don't like just continue just to start losing all of that.
And that's something that I fear too, because I mean, even when like you apply it to what I do for a passion of, hunting, we can do everything on our phone as far as look at a map and study that, but there's nothing that's gonna beat or be more accurate than actually, putting our feet on the ground and walking out into the woods to see it with our eyes.
Right. It's like saying you're playing a hunting game and, oh, wow, look, I'm an avid hunter because you can play the game. It's
Exactly.
not the same thing as being out in the woods and being cold and, figuring out where the animals are. And that's actually one thing I learned this summer. There was a family that I grew up with, and the dad wanted to write a book. Well, they live in Wyoming. And so I took a road trip out there, went through Yellowstone, and they're very outdoorsy. It's just beautiful there. And I did not know that the moose and the elk lose their antlers every year.
Yes.
So I learned that, and that's what they do. They track them. So they track the animal, and to decide where they have lost them, and then they find them, and they either sell the antlers or they make things out of them. But
The
that is,
art, yeah, the
huh?
arts and crafts world with antlers it's a real thing. It's a
Yeah,
pretty big hobby.
yeah. But I didn't know that it's going to be my now
Oh,
every
I understand your point.
yeah, yeah. But but they actually go out and track the animals, and try to figure out where they have lost their antlers, and it's really interesting. But I didn't know that, so I can imagine children don't know that,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And so that's something that if they read my book when I when I get done with it, that a child's going to learn, and then maybe there's somewhere where they can access something like that,
Right.
or if they find an arts and crafts thing made out of an antler, they're going to know, oh, like this is real.
See, and the one thing that I really like about the concept of your books is it speaks to, that imagination and that childhood excitement for new things. Is it really urges them to want to get up and go live those experiences themselves.
Right. Well, a lot of people, you don't know that you can do these things,
Right.
and so if a family's reading the book, they're like, oh, we can do that. Let's go do that, you know,
Exactly.
and they're not stuck in, the systematic, whatever it is that they're, oh, this is all we're going to do, and it's like, you know, like our speech therapist is going to go to Kona. My friend, I grew up with him, so he actually lives in Kona, and he has a Airbnb there. So my speech therapist who's traveling I think she's from Kentucky, but she's going to go there. So I was telling her all the things to do, like go do the seahorse and the octopus. And we went night swimming with the manta rays, which was kind of scary, but amazing. They
Yeah.
swam up on us and kind of did a somersault, on our bodies. And it was just amazing. And so I said, you have to go do that, but she didn't know any of those things.
Right.
You think of Hawaii, I'm going to go lay on the white sand beach and that's what I'm going to do. But no, there's all this stuff to do.
All right. So, your dream traveling vacation.
Well, I love Tahiti. So if I were to get to go back somewhere, I would go to Tahiti again. But I really want to go to Ireland. I've never been to Ireland. So I don't know. I have this never ending bucket list. Right.
Ireland would be very cool.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, and I found that you can actually stay in a hotel under the ocean. And I found it in Florida and some other place. I'm like, oh, I want to do that.
That would be different.
Yeah. And you can actually go and stay like in it must be glass. I would say it was glass, and watch the Aurora Borealis. Like that would be cool.
That would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it like in a safari too. And where like the giraffes come and you can see them. That'd be kind of scary, but it'd be exciting too. But there's so many things that you could do. Like, just about anything. Just about anything.
So is it a camper or a trailer?
Camper.
All right, I'll take that answer, but I think it's got to be a tent.
A tent. Well, see, I'm almost 60, so tents are kind of getting hard.
Fair enough.
You don't get up quite as easy as you used to. But
that's true.
Spend a lot of time in tents, believe me. Now, no, I like a bed.
And then finally, what projects do you got up your sleeves that you want to tell us about real quick?
I just finished one. It's called Queen Vernita Visits the Land of Little Rain. It's actually been in process for 10 years. And we based it in a B&B in Tucson, Arizona. It's called Hacienda Linda. And it has all of the desert information. It has missions. It has a camel. It has Diwali and the Day of the Dead. Lots of information. And it's based on a real bed and breakfast. And I researched Wyoming, and we're starting the illustrations on that. So it's going to have snowshoeing and collecting the antlers. And what else does it have? Oh, it has just all sorts of exciting things from Wyoming.
Very cool.
Yes.
And let's see, lastly, how can my listeners find your books or find out whatever's your latest information?
I have Facebook, Dawn Menge 1. And then I have an Instagram, Dawn Menge, a Twitter, Queen Vernita. They're under Rushmore Press, which is my publisher. They're on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, any of the major online retailers. They all have my books. Or you can contact me at queenvernitasvisitors@yahoo.com, and I will send you an author signed copy.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time and keep up the good work.
Oh, and well, thank you for having me, and sit by a campfire.
Absolutely.
Good.
Good night. Well, that's it. That's all. That's the end. We made it to the end of another campfire session. I want to thank Dawn for joining us this week. It was definitely a lot of fun. Yeah, like I said, that conversation definitely brought out that inner child spirit and that sense to explore. And you know what? Next time I get into the woods, it kind of gives me a foundation to be able to, I don't know, put myself into a whole different view and a whole different way of seeing the next time that I get out and I take an adventure. So make sure you guys swing over, pick up those books, visit Amazon, check them out. I know Dawn had mentioned that she has some more books in the works, and I hope that she'll join us again when she gets those finished up. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Till next time, make sure you get out there in the wilderness, because that's where the stillness and the adventure lies. I want to thank Anchor for all that they do for us. I want to thank our friends over at Cervid Nation, and I want to thank our friends at Cope Notes. And I also want to thank the Project Mindfully Outdoors community. It is a great thing the way that this is growing. And on that note, one last thing before I get out of here, I want to welcome Dawn to the community. Thank you, and we'll talk soon. Hey, it's Mike. I just wanted to take a second to say thank you one more time for tuning in and checking out the show. I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you haven't yet, I'd like you to remember to hit that subscribe button. That way you don't miss out on any of the future episodes coming up. Also, if you're really liking what you hear, please feel free to leave a 5-star review and then some kind of nice comment to follow. I hear it goes a long way. Thanks. Talk again soon.